There comes a moment, often unspoken but deeply felt, when a man or woman standing at the crossroads of 35 or 50 feels the weight of two worlds pressing on the soul, the weight of what has been done and the gravity of what remains undone. It is here, precisely here, that most people make the silent decision to either drift with the winds of emotion and regret or to seize the wheel of their mind and chart the final defining course of their destiny. If you are 35, you are no longer a child of potential. You are the adult of consequence. If you are 50, the world no longer waits for you to discover who you are. It now demands that you become who you must. Your life is not a rehearsal. Your time is not infinite, and your emotions are no longer innocent. Let me speak plainly, and let every word I say be branded on the iron of your character. If you do not master your inner world, your outer world will forever master you. You have been lied to by your upbringing, by your education, by your feelings. You have been told that success is about doing more, feeling more, giving more, achieving more. But the great secret is this. Success begins when you finally detach from the need to feel anything at all, not because you are cold, but because you are clear. The man who wins is not the man who reacts to every storm, but the one who learns to become the storm's calm center. Emotional detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the triumph of choice over impulse. It is the discipline of not being moved until you decide to move. And if you cannot yet do that, then understand. Your success is not being stolen by the world. It is being surrendered by your own lack of control. A man who reaches 35 with his emotions ungoverned is a man enslaved to the moods of the day. A woman who reaches 50 without the power of mental discipline is a woman still waiting for permission to live her truth. And I say to both, your time is not coming. Your time is now. But only if you are prepared to command it. There is no wealth more potent than peace of mind. There is no power more elite than inner clarity. And there is no freedom more lasting than the ability to choose your thoughts deliberately as a master selects the tools of his craft. You do not rise by accident. You rise because you have built an inner structure that makes collapse impossible. Now let me define what I mean by emotional detachment. It is not apathy. It is not weakness. It is the conscious decision to no longer allow your emotions to govern your behavior. You will feel. Yes, you will feel, but you will not obey. Because to obey your feelings is to forfeit your throne as the ruler of your life. Emotional detachment means that when fear comes, you do not react, you investigate. When anger surges, you do not lash, you listen. When sorrow comes, you do not collapse, you learn. It is the principle of sovereignty over self. And until you practice it daily, hourly, you are nothing more than a puppet whose strings are pulled by past wounds and future worries. Let us speak now of mental discipline. For detachment without discipline is merely delay. You must train your mind as a warrior trains his body not once, but forever. You must wake not with dread, but with direction. You must think not for comfort, but for clarity. You must become ruthlessly selective in what thoughts you allow to live in the temple of your mind. And how do you build such discipline? You begin by cutting the noise, not just the noise around you, the news, the phone, the chatter, but the noise within you, the voices of doubt, the echoes of failure, the endless questions that distract you from decisive action. You must quiet the storm so you can hear the whisper of truth. And that truth is this: you are capable of more than you've dared to claim. But that capability means nothing if you do not seize control of the single force that shapes your every result, your response. You may not control the events of life, but you are always, always in control of your response. And in that space between stimulus and response lies your entire kingdom. If you react, you are a slave. If you respond, you are a king. Too many reach 35, still reacting. Too many reach 50, still waiting. But those who rise, those who leave behind mediocrity and ascend into mastery, do so because they have become cold in decision, hot in conviction, and clear in vision. Now, let me give you this law etched, not in theory, but in results. If you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. This is not speculation. This is law. No great man was ever ruled by his feelings. Lincoln did not weep his way into leadership. Edison did not whine his way into invention. Carnegie did not beg his way into fortune. They each at some point detached, not from humanity but from hysteria. They built fortresses around their minds and then let their souls speak through deliberate, effective action. And so must you. Now I will tell you something that most people avoid. Life is war, not the war of violence, but the war of thought. You are at war with your old habits. You are at war with your past self. You are at war with distractions, with comforts, with emotions that beg you to settle. And if you are not winning that war, you are losing it. There is no neutral ground in the battle of the mind. You must treat your thoughts as weapons or they will be used against you. You must guard your emotions like gold or they will bankrupt your potential. You must build habits like armor or the world will pierce your spirit every day. So what then is the path? It is the path of inner command, of waking each morning not as a servant to mood, but as a general of purpose, of speaking to yourself with power, not pity, of choosing your emotions like you choose your clothes deliberately, wisely, for the role you must play in that day's victory. And yes, it is a role, because life is theater, but only those who know their character win the play. You must play the role of the man or woman you are becoming, not the one you have been. Every morning, every decision, every setback, play the role of mastery, and soon it will not be a role. It will be reality. I have seen men at 35 rebuild kingdoms from the ashes. I have seen women at 50 redefine purpose with such fire that time bowed before their will. But not one of them did it by emotion. They did it by decision. Not one of them did it by chance. They did it by law, by the timeless laws of inner success that never change, never break, and never lie. Understand this now. You are not who you think you are. You are who you repeatedly obey within your mind. The undisciplined mind obeys fear. The trained mind obeys purpose. The reactive mind obeys pain. The awakened mind obeys vision. The lazy mind obeys moods. But the sovereign mind, the mind of the true builder, obeys truth. It selects thoughts the way a sculptor selects chisels, with precision, with intention, and with full awareness that one wrong move can shape the future in error. You are not here to merely live. You are here to rule yourself first, the rest will follow. Emotional detachment is not numbness. It is spiritual maturity. It is the power to feel everything and be moved by nothing that does not serve your higher aim. When you detach from reaction, you access revelation. When you stop obeying your emotions, you finally hear the call of destiny that's been drowned out by your emotional noise. And destiny does not shout, it whispers, and it whispers only to those quiet enough within to hear it. Now hear this. The man who is calm is feared by the man who is frantic. The woman who is still is envied by the one who is scattered. The person who thinks is always 10 moves ahead of the one who feels. This is why you must build the temple of your mind from the inside out, not with bricks of motivation, but with stones of discipline. For discipline is the father of freedom, and self-command is the mother of mastery. No success is built without it, no fortune is kept without it, and no legacy survives without it. Let me introduce to you now a principle that I call the law of mental neutrality. It is the power to observe without absorbing, to witness an insult and not internalize it, to see chaos and remain centered, to hear criticism and sift it for truth without bowing to shame. Mental neutrality is not indifference, it is power without noise. It is a mind trained like a sniper, calm, calculating, unshaken, and exact. Most people confuse thinking with reacting. They believe that a storm in the mind is a sign of intelligence, but no. True intelligence is measured by what you can hold without breaking. True intelligence is emotional stillness in a world that worships chaos. And that stillness must be trained daily, hourly, relentlessly. At 35, you are no longer allowed to wait for things to click. You must make them click. At 50, you are no longer allowed to be a victim of your upbringing, your society, your mistakes. You are the author now. Write deliberately, speak decisively, act unapologetically. How? With the principle of thought first. Thought must always come before feeling. Feeling must always follow decision. And decision must always be married to purpose. Never again say, I feel like doing this. Say instead, I've chosen this course because it aligns with my aim. This is the language of champions. You see, emotion is the fog, thought is the light, and purpose is the map. Without that trinity, you are doomed to walk in circles, days become decades, and regret becomes your shadow. So I ask you, what is your definiteness of purpose? Have you defined it clearly, or have you let it be smothered by convenience? At 35, if you have not defined your chief aim, your energy will be fractured. At 50, if you have not acted on that aim with discipline, your spirit will wither in regret. A man without purpose is like a boat without a compass. It doesn't matter how expensive the boat is or how hard he rows, he will drift until death. But the man who knows his aim clearly, precisely, passionately commands every force of the universe to bend in his direction. The world belongs to the focused. Do not confuse movement with progress. Many people are working hard in the wrong direction. The only labor that matters is that which is aligned with a clear, chosen aim. Write this down. Purpose makes pain meaningful. Discipline makes success inevitable. Emotional detachment makes both manageable. Now let us address your habits, for they are the invisible architects of your destiny. Your habits are nothing more than physical reflections of your dominant thoughts. If your habits are weak, your mind is unclear. If your habits are reactive, your emotions are in control. If your habits are deliberate, your future is predictable. You cannot escape this law. Each morning you must sit with your thoughts and ask, which of you are allies and which of you are traitors? Yes, traitors. Because some of your thoughts are not here to help you. They were planted by fear, nurtured by failure, and repeated by weakness. You must exile them. You must be merciless with doubt. You must starve the impulses that betray your higher path. A person with untrained habits at 35 is gambling with their last years of leverage. A person with undisciplined habits at 50 is silently building a retirement of quiet despair. But change can begin in one thought. One thought. One command that says, enough of this. One decision that says, I own my mind. One declaration that says, from this moment forward, I act from thought, not feeling. And then ritual, daily ritual, a sacred code of practice that trains the subconscious to obey your higher self, not your wounded one. This is the power of autosuggestion, the daily repetition of chosen truth, until it becomes your new default reality. You must speak to your mind as a king speaks to his court. I am the master, you will obey. Repeat with intention, not with emotion. Speak with force, not hope. Choose your affirmations as if your life depends on them, because it does. Say, I command my emotions, they do not command me. I respond with power, I do not react with fear. I am disciplined in thought, therefore I am rich in results. These are not mere words. These are declarations of war against the old you, because success is not a game, it is a battlefield. And you must win first in the mind before you ever win in the world. There is no salvation in the external, not in money, not in relationships, not in applause, not in comfort. For all of those things are temporary, fleeting, and hostage to forces outside your control. But your mind is eternal territory. Your mind is sovereign land, and you must become its ruler with absolute, unrelenting authority. You must walk the corridors of your mind like a king inspecting his castle. You must seek out the cobwebs of indecision, the rot of emotional dependency, the cracks of self-doubt, and repair them with force. Not gently, not tomorrow, now. Because time is not your friend. Time is your mirror. It reflects what you have permitted, what you have tolerated, what you have excused. And if you've spent the last 20 years building your identity on reaction, comfort, or external validation, then you have been building on sand. But it is never too late to lay stone. If you are 35, you still have the fire of youth and the wisdom of scars. Use both. Forge yourself. If you are 50, you now possess a power no younger man can imitate, the power of perspective. Use it, sharpen it, and then cut through every illusion that still binds you. Do not say, I should have started sooner. Say instead, I start now and I never stop. That is mental discipline. That is emotional detachment. That is power. Let me now give you a law so ancient and absolute, it is older than civilization itself. You become whatever you dwell upon. If you dwell on betrayal, you become bitter. If you dwell on failure, you become timid. If you dwell on regret, you become paralyzed. But if you dwell on vision, you become unstoppable. You must learn to guard the gates of your mind like a warrior at the fortress. Not every thought has the right to enter. Not every feeling has the right to stay. You must inspect each with the question, does this serve my purpose? If it does not, exile it. Now understand this. Every man is born a slave to his mind, but not every man dies one. The weak mind is reactive, emotional, scattered. It obeys the mood, the opinion, the trend. It cannot hold a thought without bleeding energy. It cannot stay with a plan without craving distraction. It cannot delay gratification, and so it suffers quietly, hoping that some external change will save it. But the strong mind, oh, the strong mind obeys principle. It endures boredom. It resists temptation. It holds its course while others drift. And most of all, it acts even when it does not feel like acting. Discipline is not something you do when you're motivated. Discipline is what you do, especially when you're not. And that, my friend, is what separates the few who build legacy from the many who build excuses. I want you to consider this. What if the version of you you're chasing is already waiting inside you right now, trapped beneath layers of emotion, fear, and comfort? What if your greatest self is not something to discover, but something to uncover? And what if the only tool you need is detachment, the ability to step back from the noise? To look at your patterns, your habits, your triggers, and cut away the ones that no longer serve the empire you must build. Because that is what this is, empire building, not of land, but of self. You must construct an empire within, of focus, of calm, of fire that does not flicker when the wind rises. The man or woman who does that becomes untouchable. Yes, untouchable. Because what can you do to a man who cannot be swayed by insult? What can you offer to a woman who needs nothing from the outside? What can you take from someone whose wealth is internal, whose peace is self-generated, whose success is built not on applause but on decision? That is the goal. That is the calling. That is the standard. And it requires you to burn the old script. The script that says, I need people to believe in me. Burn it. The script that says, I'm too emotional to be consistent. Burn it. The script that says, I don't have the discipline. Burn it. And write a new one. I act from thought, not from feeling. I command my habits like a master commands his tools. I create peace not through retreat, but through rule. That is what it means to be sovereign over self. And now I speak to the man who has failed again and again and wonders if it's too late. To the woman who has spent decades caring for others, losing herself in the process. To the soul who wakes up tired not from work, but from the weight of never becoming what you knew you could be. Listen to me. It is not too late, but only if you stop waiting to feel ready. You will not feel ready. You will feel scared. You will feel doubt. You will feel unworthy. But if you act anyway, you will feel power. And that, my friend, is the secret no one tells you. Power does not precede discipline. Discipline precedes power. You act like a disciplined person and you become one. You think like a focused person and you become one. You detach like a peaceful person and you become one. It is not pretending. It is practicing, and practice becomes reality. Let us now speak of the emotional economy of a disciplined mind. Every day you are spending emotional currency. Worry, anger, distraction, jealousy, anxiety, each costs energy, attention, time, and just like money, emotional energy is either invested or wasted. The average person is emotionally bankrupt by noon, not because of what happened, but because they are reactive to everything. A glance, a text, a comment, a memory. They leak power like a cracked vessel. But the mentally disciplined, emotionally detached person builds emotional capital every morning. They do not respond to everything they choose. They do not over-explain, they observe. They do not defend, they decide. This is how emotional detachment translates into wealth, into influence, into sustained effectiveness. Because while others are drained by their reactivity, You are enriched by your control. And now, a principle that will free you if you are brave enough to accept it. You do not owe the world an emotional explanation for your peace. You do not owe your past an apology for outgrowing it. You do not owe your wounds the right to steer your decisions. You do not owe fear the courtesy of your attention. This is how emotional detachment protects your vision. When others crumble under pressure, you stand tall, not because you feel no pain, but because you have trained your mind to process it differently. You have taught yourself to interpret pain not as punishment, but as purification. Let me repeat this to you. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your call to power. Most will run. Most will numb it. Most will suppress it. But the builder, the one who is constructing an internal empire, will sit with it, examine it, ask, "What are you here to teach me?" and then rise. This is the essence of accurate thinking, one of the lost arts in a world of emotional noise. To think accurately is to strip every thought of its costume and ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this aligned with my purpose? If not, you discard it. You do not argue with it, you do not post about it, you do not feed it. You simply move forward. Accurate thinking is the cure for emotional addiction. Yes, emotional addiction, that pattern of staying loyal to suffering because it's familiar, of reacting the same way to the same triggers because you don't know who you are without the chaos, of chasing people, drama, opinions, moods because they distract you from the greater pain, facing yourself. But when you train yourself to think with clarity, to see without distortion, to act without drama, your whole world shifts. You stop reacting to problems emotionally and start solving them logically. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You stop performing for approval and start executing for results. This is how the disciplined mind becomes unstoppable. It no longer seeks escape, it seeks mastery. And now, I will give you a command I expect you to obey if you are serious about your evolution. From this day forward, you will act in alignment with your highest self even when your emotions protest. You will rise early even when your mood says no. You will speak truth even when your fear says hide. You will move forward even when your doubt says pause. You will no longer consult your feelings for permission because feelings are followers and you are a leader. Now listen closely. You were not born to manage your circumstances. You were born to govern your reality. But reality will not bend to emotion, it bends to discipline. And discipline is nothing more than remembering what you want more than what you feel. You want wealth? Then crave consistency more than comfort. You want mastery? Then crave structure more than stimulation. You want peace? Then crave solitude more than attention. This is how the masters live. They do not rush. They do not beg. They do not explain. They build quietly, relentlessly, intentionally. Their reward? A life that does not require escape, a mind that cannot be shaken, a spirit that leads empires. Now you must decide. Will you join them? You, at 35, must ask, am I willing to die to the version of me that survived but never thrived? You, at 50, must ask, am I willing to live the final decades as the real me, not the conditioned me? And if the answer is yes, then commit now. Not casually. Not someday. Now. Write the new code on your walls, your mirrors, your phone, your journal, everywhere. I am not my feelings. I am my decisions. I do not wait for clarity. I create it. I move with thought. I act with principle. I win with discipline. This is your new law. And once it becomes your law, your old life will not survive. Your old relationships will tremble. Your excuses will suffocate. Your need for applause will starve. But in their place will rise something indestructible. A mind you can trust. A will you cannot break. A life you do not want to escape from. And you will finally understand. Emotional detachment is not the end of passion. It is the beginning of purpose. Mental discipline is not the loss of spontaneity. It is the foundation of greatness. Inner mastery is not the denial of life. It is the unlocking of its highest form. Now I must tell you a truth so clear, so absolute, that once heard, it can never be unheard. You are not tired, you are undisciplined. You are not overwhelmed, you are overstimulated. You are not behind, you are simply scattered. And you are not weak, you are simply not yet fully committed. Every problem you face today can be traced back to a single source, a failure to govern the inner world. Not your job, not your family, not your past, your mind. Because if the mind is chaotic, all things become distorted. Success becomes a struggle, joy becomes a chore, time becomes your enemy, and you become a stranger to your own potential. But the opposite is also true. When the mind is ruled by principle, not by pain, you become unstoppable. You see through chaos, you organize your emotions, you act from wisdom, not wounds, and you rise while others remain stuck. Let me be perfectly clear. Success is not reserved for the lucky. Success is reserved for the disciplined, for the calm, for the inwardly strong, for the man or woman who chooses their thoughts like a surgeon chooses a blade with precision, with purpose, with courage. And if that is not yet you, then it is time to become it. Now listen well. The undisciplined mind is not neutral, it is dangerous. A reactive man ruins relationships. A fearful mind kills opportunity. An impulsive spirit wastes decades. A chaotic inner world will destroy every gift you were born to express. So if you want peace, train your mind. If you want freedom, command your mind. If you want greatness, master your mind. There is no other way. And it begins with saying no. No to old habits. No to emotional indulgence. No to drama. No to approval seeking. No to the lie that you must feel good to act great. You must renounce comfort like an addict renounces poison, because comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the enemy of evolution. Comfort feeds mediocrity. Comfort delays your transformation. Comfort rewards you today so it can rob you tomorrow. Discipline does the opposite. Discipline costs you now, but crowns you later. Discipline makes you lonely now, but legendary forever. And at 35, at 50, you cannot afford another year of softness, another year of waiting, another year of being almost ready. You must become who you were meant to be, brutally, relentlessly, immediately. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to think for you. No one is going to fight your internal battles. And thank God for that, because it means you are free. Free to build, free to train, free to rise. And you rise by ritual, by waking when your body says sleep, by moving when your emotions say hide, by focusing when your mind says drift. It is ritual, not emotion, that rewires identity. And once identity shifts, your results become inevitable. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer hope to be clear-minded. You are clear. You no longer wish to succeed. You decide and act and move until you do. This is the mental edge the world does not teach. It teaches motivation, not mastery. It sells inspiration, not identity. It glorifies passion, not principle. But let me remind you, principle is eternal. Passion fades. Discipline endures. Emotion changes. Identity shapes fate. Impulse distorts it. You must anchor yourself to principle like a ship anchoring in a storm. You must declare who you are before the world defines it for you. And you must protect your clarity like a lion guards his territory. So let me give you this rule. You do not chase peace. You create it by what you allow. What you allow into your mind. What you allow into your conversations. What you allow into your morning routine, your thoughts at night, your self-talk at noon. And if you allow fear, you will dwell in hesitation. If you allow gossip, you will drown in comparison. If you allow chaos, you will call it normal. But if you allow only clarity, vision, thought, and action, then peace will find you. Because peace is not a place. Peace is a discipline. It is the consequence of controlling the invisible. Now, let me give you an assignment, not for later, not for someday, but for now. Write down your highest self clearly, vividly, specifically. Not the self that survived, not the self that fits in, but the self you were born to become. Write how that person thinks, how they walk, how they respond to insult, how they wake, how they train, how they speak when no one's watching. And then live like them. Not tomorrow. Now. Because if you do not act like your highest self now, you never will. You will wait and age and wonder and regret. But if you decide now, if you rise now, if you commit now, you will feel something shift, not in the world, in you. And once it shifts, nothing external can shake it. Not criticism, not failure. No delay, not loneliness. Because you will have become the rarest thing in this world. A human being who is ruled by vision, not by emotion. At this moment, you must stop being a student of success and become the embodiment of it. You must stop admiring discipline and begin enforcing it. You must stop studying emotional mastery and begin living it. Because no one will come to your house, knock on your door, and hand you a crown. You must forge it with sweat, with solitude, with silence, with unshakable daily action. At 35, you are not late, but you are on notice. At 50, you are not expired, but you are under divine demand. The rest of your life will not be decided by fate, it will be dictated by your inner world. And so I say again, master it, or it will master you. You already know what you must do. Wake up earlier. Think deliberately. Detach emotionally. Act consistently. Repeat endlessly. This is the game, and it is not a short one. It is a war of years, of identity, of legacy. But if you win it, you will never again look outside yourself for power. You will never again beg life to be fair. You will never again need applause, permission, or perfect conditions. Because you will have become sovereign. Yes, sovereign. Sovereign over your impulses. Sovereign over your thoughts. Sovereign over your responses. Sovereign over your destiny. Let others complain. Let others chase pleasure. Let others drown in emotion. Not you. You have a mission. And when you live by mission, emotion becomes irrelevant. Does the builder stop because he feels uncertain? No, he builds. Does the surgeon pause because he's anxious? No, he operates. Does the general freeze because the weather shifts? No, he leads. You must do the same. You must build, operate, and lead even when the winds of emotion rise, even when no one claps, even when your old self resists. Especially then, because that is when rebirth occurs, not when it's easy, when it's earned. So here is my final instruction, and I offer it not as a suggestion, but as a command to your highest self. Stand up today as the ruler of your inner world. Start with your thoughts. Write them, watch them, select them, direct them. Then move to your habits. Strip away anything that insults your vision. Replace it with practice, with ritual, with self-respect in motion. Then fortify your decisions. No more back and forth. No more hesitation. Decide, move, adjust only when purpose requires, not when emotions beg. Then build your silence. Yes, silence. Because from silence comes signal. From stillness comes clarity. From inner quiet comes unstoppable conviction. And finally, protect your peace. Not by hiding, but by ruling. You protect your peace when you no longer need to explain your mission. When you no longer get pulled into other people's drama. When you no longer need the approval of the small to build something great. You protect your peace by living your law. And what is that law? I do not serve emotion, I serve vision. I do not react, I respond. I do not beg, I build. I do not wait, I walk. And I will not stop because I am not who I was. I am who I decided to be. Now go and let the world feel the full weight of the person you have buried for too long. Let your habits scream discipline. Let your presence speak calm. Let your work express your thoughts clearly, powerfully, relentlessly. And let your life become the most disciplined sermon the world has ever seen. You are not done. You are not broken. You are not late. You are just one decision away from becoming untouchable. Make it now, and never look back. You've spent decades watching others live bold while you hesitated. You've watched others claim the stage while you memorized reasons to stay small. You've watched people less gifted, less principled, less worthy win. Why? Because they acted while you analyzed. They decided. While you delayed. They detached from weakness while you negotiated with it. But today that ends, because the version of you that is willing to live like this, halfway awake, halfway great, halfway present, that version does not deserve your next 10 years. Let them die here. Let them vanish in the fire you now ignite. You are no longer interested in potential. You are no longer a student of regret. You are no longer a collector of distractions, a museum of other people's opinions. You are a master in the making, and masters do not beg, they build. Masters do not react, they respond. Masters do not wait, they demand results from themselves before the world ever claps. This world does not belong to the emotional. It belongs to the decided. To the man who wakes up and moves, no matter how he feels. To the woman who executes, no matter how the day unfolds. To the individual who refuses to ask life to be easier and instead becomes stronger. Let me give you something they never taught you in school, in sermons, or in slogans. Your emotional state is not sacred. Your destiny is. Your feelings are not gods, they are feedback. Your moods are not truth, they are patterns. Your past is not a prophecy, it is raw material. And your identity is not set in stone, it is a decision you reinforce with every single breath. You can kill the old you in silence, you can rebuild in the dark. You can rise without clapping, without celebration, without support. Because you were not born to be applauded, you were born to reign. The world you want will not unfold at your feet like a velvet carpet, it will challenge you. It will whisper lies. It will test your detachment. It will poke your weakest emotions and say, "Are you sure you're ready?" And that's when you smile. Not because it's easy, but because you trained for this. You did not meditate just to feel good. You did not rise early just to post quotes. You did not build habits just to say you have a routine. You did all of it for this moment, this war, this storm, this test, and now you meet it with calm because you're done negotiating. You're done excusing. You're done betraying the future for a feeling. You do not need another reason. You do not need more inspiration. You do not need anyone's permission. You need decisive repetition. Yes, repetition, not revelation. You don't need to figure it all out. You need to keep showing up. You don't need a breakthrough. You need brutal consistency. You win by becoming boring to the undisciplined, predictable in your power, unmoved by the trivial, detached from the emotional tides that sink most men before noon. You are not here to feel amazing every day. You are here to build a life so powerful, it doesn't matter how you feel. Because the man who moves forward regardless of feeling, he becomes fate itself. The woman who executes despite doubt, she becomes a storm of results. And the person who detaches from comfort long enough, they own their time. They are not busy. They are clear. They are not stressed. They are ruthless. They are not emotional. They are laser focused. This is your new standard. Say it out loud. I am no longer available for my own excuses. I will no longer worship my emotions. I am the designer, the enforcer, and the protector of my future. You don't beg for success. You don't wish for it. You enforce it with the weight of your habits, the silence of your training, and the ferocity of your self-respect. Let people talk. You build. Let them laugh. You move. Let them doubt. You dominate. And when they ask how you changed, you won't explain. You won't brag. You won't flex. You'll just say, I stopped being emotional about what required execution. I stopped reacting to what I used to allow. I stopped waiting. I started becoming. And then let your silence echo across the years you've reclaimed. Because this is not just about winning. It's about finally becoming unshakable. Not numb, not cold, clear. Not arrogant, not loud, unstoppable, and not someday. Now, burn your fears. Enforce your thoughts. And show the world what happens when a human being masters their inner world so completely that destiny has no choice but to obey. Now go, and never break your own law again.